many of you grabbed a bulletin on the way in? Raise your hands. Come on now. Man, most of you aren't Catholic. What are you going to do if the homily's terrible? That's knowing laughter. I know what it was like. What is on the cover of the bulletin? It's an image of a sheep. It's a beautiful image. And now, full disclosure, I didn't choose it because I've been gone for the past week. But it's an image that's actually very near and dear to my own heart. This same image is in a painting in my office here at St. Peter Chanel. And it's also in my office over at Blessed Trinity. And the one over there I have hanging right above the chair where the students sit when they come and talk with me. And it helps remind me of how Jesus would act in those moments. But I want to share with you a couple things just about this image. Because one of the things I love about being Catholic is we hold in tension the beauty of the ideal, but then also our own humanity. And so in the beauty of the ideal around this image, here you have this little sheep. It's wandered off from the rest of the fold. It's a little muddy and a little dirty, and it's just looking like, did I do something wrong? And in the background, you see Jesus chasing after, like, I'm going to save that little sheep. And how beautiful, and it's just so warming and wonderful. And then you have also the human side, which is my personal favorite side to understand this image. Once again, you have this same little sheep off from the fold, into the woods, into the mud, that same dumb look, did I do that? And Jesus running after the sheep, but he has a little different mind, or a little different idea in his mind. And I can imagine at times Jesus running, going, I can't wait to break that sheep's legs. Because sometimes I feel like that's how the Lord talks to me. Like, oh, sometimes, man, Evan, you're doing great. Others, I can't wait to break your legs. This week we celebrate Good Shepherd Sunday. What does it mean to be a good shepherd? What does it mean to have someone who cares for a flock? What does it mean for Jesus as the Good Shepherd to be the image and sign of every other priest in the world? The image of what every priest is supposed to live out. What does it mean to be a good shepherd? If you come to some of my daily masses, you'll hear from time to time, I have a vendetta against the idea that Jesus was a nice man. I'm here to declare to you today, Jesus was anything but nice. Nice is not a virtue. If anybody says to you, Jesus was nice, I want you to slap them. Because Jesus was not nice. Was he merciful? 100%. Was he willing to go out and meet people where they were? Absolutely. But the reason Jesus wasn't nice was because he was willing to meet them where they're at, yes. But then what did he do? What did he do? He called them to something greater. He called them to the truth. Mary Magdalene, I know that you've lived a hard life. I know that many demons have encountered you and are part of your everyday existence. But go and sin no more. The healing of the lepers, this awful thing that has overcome you. Go and be healed, but go and sin no more. And my own personal favorite, the flipping of the tables in the temple. Get rid of all of these things that have perverted my Father's house. My friends, to be a good shepherd is not to be nice, but it is to be merciful and just. It is to go out into those dark places, that difficulty, that reality, that outside of these walls, it's difficult to live the Christian faith. Is it not? Is it not difficult for you? Is it not difficult to go into your offices, to go into your friend's house, and have to live by these standards? If you don't believe it's difficult, it's because you're not living it. It is difficult. I know that. I get that. And it's not hypocritical for me to stand up here and tell you that it's difficult, because I find it difficult to live out at times. But it's not hypocritical because I still stand here to say, what is the truth? What should we be doing? What should you be doing? What should I be doing? Because every priest has at the back of his mind this passage from the gospel. What does it mean to be a good shepherd? but to lay your life down. What does that mean in the eyes of a priest? Sometimes it means laying down my own ideal of who I am. Sometimes it means laying down my own ego, my own desire to be liked in order to proclaim the truth. Every priest has in the back of his mind this gospel because it's by this gospel that he will be judged. Because every priest has no one other than Jesus himself to compare himself. And so every priest has this as his example, his guide into his life. Now, on this Good Shepherd Sunday, what else do we celebrate? Yes, Jesus is our Good Shepherd. Yes, we celebrate priests in some regard, even the ones you don't like. But we also, in a particular way in the church, pray in a particular way for a holy outpouring of vocations, particularly to the priesthood. We can talk about marriage as a vocation and the beautiful sign that is into the world of God's entire love coming into the world, the entire Trinity being made manifest by the love between a husband and a wife. We can talk about the religious vocation, someone who lays down their life to further the mission of the church. Those things are beautiful. But today I want to focus on a particular one, the priesthood. And in particular, I want to talk to the young men here. I want to talk to the young men, and I also want to talk to families, because families, you're the ones who foster vocations. Because I don't know if you know this, but without priests, we don't have access to what? The Eucharist, confession, to the anointings, to weddings that are sacramental, to baptism, the very entrance into saving life and the adopted aspect of humanity, into the family of God. Families foster vocations. Young men, if you have even in your mind that the Lord could be even inviting you to consider the priesthood, be excited. And I want to tell you to be excited, and I want to give you a piece of my own story. A small piece, because we could be here for an hour otherwise. I, in this life, wanted nothing more than to be a husband and to be a father. That was all I ever desired. I wanted to coach the Little League. I wanted to just be that man that was working, that was providing for his family, that was being a good shepherd to my wife and my kids. This was all I wanted. But some point in my life, in high school and mostly into my adulthood, the Lord started putting on my heart, well, I want you to consider priesthood. When I first received that call in high school, I was like, absolutely not going to happen. Completely forgot about it for 10 more years. As a young adult, that idea kept coming up. And I got to a point where I was like, Lord, how could you have me have this desire to be a husband and father, but then also try to ask me to give that up to be a priest? What kind of God would do that? Why would you give me a desire and then tell me to get rid of it? It doesn't make sense. And many, many years later, when I got to a point where I couldn't stop having that idea about becoming a priest, I went into seminary not knowing what I was doing. Surprise for some of you, most guys do. You don't go into seminary like, I'm going to be a priest. You go into seminary because the Lord has called you. And so there I was in seminary wrestling with this. I want to be a husband. I want to be a father. But somewhere in me, there's this other thing coming up. And finally, on a retreat, the Lord spoke to the very reality that the enemy had started to take over. You see, I thought becoming a priest meant I would have to give up that desire. That there was something wrong with that desire to be a husband, to be a father. But God spoke through it in a powerful way. He said, Evan, that's not true. That desire that you have to be a husband and father, those are beautiful, holy things. I don't command you to give that up. Because God doesn't command, He only invites. He said, that's a holy desire. If you want that, take it. Go for it. I will bless it and I will make everything happen for you. I will not view you as less because you chose it. Go, do it. Now, most of you would probably be sitting there being like, got my out. But in that same vein, He spoke to me again. And it wasn't like hearing words, but it spoke from the heart in a way that I never would have admitted to myself. He spoke to me, and he said, Evan, that is a holy desire, but I have something else for you. I have an invitation for you. And I don't offer this to every man, but I have an invitation for you. Would you be willing to sacrifice the thing you want the most? The thing you desire the most? Would you be willing to sacrifice that in order to protect it? My friends, this was a very real call on my own vocation, because the Lord, in one hand, put this holy desire in my heart to be a husband and be a father, but on the other hand, he invited me to sacrifice in the same way that his son did. This holy desire to lay it down and to fight for something that he wanted. A pure invitation and a pure gift. Young men, everything that the Lord has intended for you, he's already placed that desire on your heart. That desire will go through many different levels of purity, many different levels of purification. Because at the end of the day, sometimes we don't know really what is at the heart of it. What was at the heart of my own vocation was this desire to fight for something, to make my life have some sort of meaning, whether that meant as a husband or as a father. But ultimately now what the Lord did with it was say, I will give you a new meaning. Protect the thing you want the most. And so my entire priesthood is dedicated to fighting for you, families. For you to live your life well. To understand the difficulties, the rigmarole, the absolute absurdity of our culture at times. To stand in the face and tell you it is possible, but it is not easy. And young men, if the Lord is inviting you, receive the invitation. It will be the greatest adventure you would ever go on. Don't let the enemy make you fearful. Because even if the Lord's inviting you, it's not a command, but an invitation. An invitation to something greater. And on a practical note, Monsignor's getting old and he needs a replacement. It's a beautiful life. It's a beautiful vocation. There's nothing more powerful than getting to stand as an instrument of Jesus to bring the sacraments to his people. Pray for your priests. Pray for these men answering the call. Pray for these men discerning. Because here's the real kicker. My St. Peter Chanel family, you will get the priests you pray for. You will get the priests you pray for. And so if you as a family aren't praying for priests, that is what you will get. Pray that men have the courage to answer the call, to be able to live up to that example of the Good Shepherd, to lay their life down for you, the flock, and to do so lovingly and in truth, not to be nice and to be loved, but in mercy and justice, so that we all may come to know the Father who did everything for us.